This is Richard Allyn. We're in Depot Bay, Oregon. A storm is on the way. And he had an NDE when he was 18 years old due to a car accident. And he's kind enough to share his story with us today. Take it away, Richard.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've lived here a long time. Worked on the ocean as a fisherman in the charter business. But this NDE happened to me when I was 18, like Jenny said. And I can tell you about it. My NDE happened from a car wreck. It was a beautiful afternoon, and I was tootling along kind of in a very pleasant state of mind and happy. And I was in a small car, sports car, but I was going 50 miles an hour. That was the speed limit, was about 55. And so all of a sudden, this great big pickup truck just crossed the center line right in front of me and smashed into me head on. It just happened in a blink of an eye. There was no time to really react to that. And of course, the accident was pretty severe. Now, I was only 18. You know, when you're 18, your body is very resilient. I like to tell people it's kind of made of rubber, so to speak, but you know, as compared to being older. But anyway, I had a seatbelt, but the impact was so strong, I pushed my head through the windshield and it pulled back and crushed the steering wheel and this kind of thing with my chest. But so I was stunned. I don't know if you could say I was really unconscious, but I was very stunned. And so I felt something weird. It was numb, but I felt something. So I put my hand up to my forehead, and the blood was just squirting everywhere and flowing down my arm, and it was just going crazy, and then running down my face and into my mouth. But anyway, so I knew it was a strange thing, in the fact that it wasn't like, oh my gosh, this is really bad. You know, I could die. There was absolutely no doubt in my mind at the time. I knew I was going to die, and it was just the way it was. And about the time I realized that, of course I was only 18, so I started to fret, just for, you know, a little bit fearful, and it all happened so fast. But at that moment, it's like they just grabbed me. You could literally feel it. So they grabbed my shoulders and they said, "Hey, Rich, it's not a big deal. You've died thousands of times before. So we have you. We got you." And so that was the beginning of my NDE. The next thing was, I was in a brilliant white light. I did not do any tunnel or anything like that. I was in a brilliant white light. It was so bright that you thought it was going to burn your eyes out. You know, you still felt, like yourself. You were yourself. And the feeling, this light was pure love. And it's love beyond any possible way of describing it. Any amount of love I ever felt in my life was just a fraction of what you felt here. The love was blinding, literally, but it didn't burn your eyes out. It was just extremely beautiful, and I knew that is my home. That is where I came from. That is who I am. This fantastically beautiful light, just filled with love, and you could feel, it's hard to describe, but you could feel just, it flowed. You could feel the pulse of creation. It just was there, and you just knew you were all a part of it. And even makes me tingle to this day when I think about it. It's very powerful, but it was natural. It was just the way it was, and I I grumble on and repeat myself about it, but I'm reminiscing and remembering, you know, of course, the feeling. And of course, about that time, there was, you know, I can't remember exactly, believe it or not, but there was about 8 or 9, I guess you'd call them beings. They were in human form, but they were vague, you know, the head and the body, but they were vague because they were also brilliant light, but they were just a different brilliant light. You could see them, and they approached, and they weren't, you know, you can't tell distance there, but it was probably like 10 feet away. So they approached and they spoke, but of course it's just all telepathy, I guess what you call it, because there's nobody actually speaking. I mean, there's no mouth moving or anything, but like I said, they were very vague on their outline, and so, but I knew I wasn't using my mouth, but my thoughts were my voice, and so that's how that went. And they were beautiful light, and there was a tinge of gold that went down their head, by their neck, and slightly on their shoulders. And that was the only different color that there was, that I saw, which was interesting. But so they talked to me, and they were like us sitting down talking right now. And one of the first things they said was, so what'd you think? They said. And I said, what did I think? And I said, yeah, you know, what did you think about your life? And I said, it seemed pretty good. I mean, it seemed pretty good, but anyway, you know, I did some bad things, but it was good, you know. And so they had me watch a movie. They didn't have me watch it. It just came up like watching it on a movie screen right in front of you. Every detail of your life from the time you were, well, I picked it up after I was born, but every detail, you watched it like a movie. And of course, there's no time. There was no time. So I watched it and watched everything up to the moment of my death, NDE. And then they asked me again, what do you think about your life? And I said basically the same thing. Man, it was interesting. It had a lot of fun, and of course I was only 18. So, you know, and there were some bad things, but because I don't know why I had that thought of, you know, some bad things I did, because I was a pretty good kid. So they say. So they said then, after I mentioned that and had watched my movie of my life, they said, we don't care. Just like that. We don't care. All that matters is what you think. That's all that matters. And I had the feeling that our lives and what we are, you know, of course, spirit and souls and the bodies, everything, all of our many bodies that we have that we're just not always aware of, because it's kind of a process of being layered to different dimensions, and we exist in a lot of dimensions at the same time. But anyway, I had the feeling that our lives are kind of determined by, are not set in stone. Nobody judges us. They don't judge. They didn't judge me. You can't judge. It's impossible to judge. You just knew from that white light that it's impossible to judge. If the white light is love, and love is God, that's what we're made from. And you can't really judge. It's just, everything just is in that sense. And so everything in a sense, even though here and at the time I was over there, we kind of fret about, there's good, there's evil, some things seem terrible, and here they are, no doubt about it. But there, it's a different feeling. They're not judged, but what happens, you definitely had the feeling and the instant knowledge that what you do during your journey of many lifetimes is kind of determines your what you vibrate with, the courses that you're going. The avenues of your future life, to an extent, because our souls are in the process of learning and experiencing and gaining reflection back to the source, in my opinion. So that I had that thought that they can't judge, because there is no judgment, and our lives automatically start setting up our next lives. So it's kind of an automatic process, and there are choices in there. The soul has things to learn, and so when we do come back in another lifetime, the soul has has purposes that it wants to experience, and some of them here seem very bad, and some of them wonderful, but it just seems to be the way it is. So there's really no punishment in that sense. I guess the reward is, of course, feeling this ultimate love. But I also had the feeling that even though that is truly who we are, we're also everything else. We're one with everything else. And we're one with the trees, we're one with the planet, we're one with the universe, we're one with other people. We're not separated. Of course, it seems very strong here that we're separated, but we're not separated. We're all together, and not just this planet. We have lifetimes on many different planets in many different places. So that finished that part of my NDE, and it was such a wonderful experience. Believe me, of course, there was a no-brainer that you didn't want to come back here, because you envisioned being stuffed back in this little anchovy can, what we call the body, and it was like, oh, man, after being in that love, it's like I don't want to go back. But they told me, sorry, I seem kind of disappointed. I've had a wonderful life and a great family, and I've helped a lot of people in our business, and provided incomes through our business for these people, and I feel good about that. But they told me, well, you can't stay. You have a whole bunch of things to do. So, and they told me that we know exactly to the second, if you want to, call it time, our time, when your time is up. When you'll pass from your physical body and return to the realization of spirit and consciousness. So they know exactly. So they told me not to worry, and I didn't really worry. I'm not afraid. One thing out of this experience, I'm not afraid to pass over. That being said, being human, there's a lot to experience, and you get rather attached in a funny way to being in the body. I find as I get older that my mentally I've loosened the reins because of this experience. I know that I'm in perfectly wonderful hands, and there's nothing to fear or fret about. So, I'm not afraid, and as I get older, it's like, it'd be great when it happens. It doesn't have to happen now. I might want to get another little vacation in, or I might want to experience some activity or do something that I haven't done before, or just enjoy some of my home life and the community. But you get this feeling that, it's going to be just great when I do pass. But there's no rush. It's so anyway, that was primarily, that was pretty much my NDE. The next thing I knew, of course, I woke up puking in a hospital bed. And my head was all bandaged up because the car wreck had peeled my skull up. It started all along here, pulled my skull up. And so they, the doctors came in, and once I started to get conscious, and they told me, well, we don't know, it was such a negative experience. They told me, oh, you could be blind, you could have this, you probably won't be able to live past 40, you might not have, your brain might not work right. And I thought, when I was laying there, I said, they're not positive at all. I just came from a beautiful, wonderful experience of the real truth of who I was. And the thing I gotta emphasize was, because there's a lot of belief out there that your brain runs all these chemicals, and this is, it does this to make you feel better. That was not the case. Your consciousness instantly travels to a higher or different place. It's not like you've gone any place. You're just in a different dimension. So you don't have to move. You do realize everything overlaps itself. So that's what I realized. And so you don't actually travel any place physically, but like the body does, gets in a car and goes someplace. You travel someplace with your consciousness. The different levels of consciousness that you already have, and levels that you have expanded on from previous lifetimes, and you travel to these. So you're much more than just a human mind and a human body, and that's the beauty of it. The potentiality of our existence is beautiful. It's to exist and to line up with all these different energies. In fact, I would say, off my experience, that's probably one of the most important things. We can't stay stagnant. This love needs to be not only love to us, but we need to return the love to each other, the planet, the universe, and to God. Because, God, I feel, has to experience itself. Him, her, all of it. And of course, you do that through creation and reflecting back, to the source, kind of, I feel anyway. But this experience kind of opened my mind. I always was pretty open, because when I was 10 years old, I realized we are all one. And it was a very uplifting experience, kind of aha experience. So, anyway, it just reinforced and enhanced and expanded on what I kind of knew from when I was about 10 years old. But and so in that sense, you became aware of these different levels of consciousness, some of them, and that life is not something to be fearful of. It's something to be experienced, and the things that truly matter in life, although even myself, I'm very human. I have bad moments, and I get grumpy at times, and being human is a spiritual experience, I guess. It's unique, and it's not easy. Of course, that's our perception of it, but I'm very much human. But then I always remember, when I get too absorbed in some negative thoughts, I remember this experience. And it helps me stay centered and realize who I am, and to expand on me, so I'm not so limited and just being a little rich. I realize I'm part of this whole thing. And so the one thing I didn't forget to mention, well, two things, so I'll quickly mention them. Is one of them is when I was there, I had this feeling, I fretted about my parents. I was only 18, and my parents, I was very close with my parents, and I fretted to the fact that they wouldn't understand that I was in a beautiful place, So I felt bad for them, not to worry, because I was great, and their fretting about it would just hurt their lives, and it would also actually hurt my life, although I was concerned about their life. But it would be a limiting factor to my experience in the spiritual realm also. And I tried to see them, so I tried to find the earth. So I looked down, I looked there, well, not really down, I just looked. And I didn't see it. And so I just kept focusing and thinking, you know, the earth, you know, it's a blue dot kind of thing. And finally I got to see the earth, and part of it was blue. This wasn't clouds either, but a lot of it was darkness, like a fog, kind of a dark fog around part of the planet. And it was kind of weird because I remember going, gee, look at that. It wasn't as bright and shiny as I thought it was going to be. So I don't know what that was all about, but I just think it has a lot to do with the state of, you know, the planet and the people and the mindset. So we're all in this together, and it was a wonderful experience, and there really is nothing to fear. And so I try to lead as good of a life as I can and try to be kind to people, because I realize from this more than ever that we are all the same in so many ways. So I try to be kind to people. That's one thing I really enjoyed, actually. I can talk to anybody because we're all the same pretty much. So that's a beautiful thing that came out of it. It's don't have to compare myself to somebody else. Don't have to do this, don't have to do that. And so that's one thing that came out of it too. But that's pretty much my story. It's pretty simple, and it was a wonderful experience.
Richard,
Yes.
do you think that having the NDE was something that was sort of destined to happen to you?
Yes, I believe it was. I don't know why. Maybe it was
Part of the plan.
Maybe it was so I was also a kind, loving person. I don't know, you know. But yes, I believe it was. I believe we all have exit points. Mm-hmm. Not just one, our final one. I believe we have exit points. The soul says, okay, well, you know, you can leave. But on the same token, I had a lot to do, which I was informed of from a higher level. So I believe it was destined.
You mentioned before also, briefly during your account, that we are all living lives in different dimensions simultaneously, or something like that?
Well,
And is that something
I
that
think
happened?
that's a possibility.
Okay, was that something that you were shown when you were there, or that's
No.
something you've just sort of come to a conclusion about?
Yes, what you realized, of course, was that you have your conscious levels are different. So the Rich Allyn here in this mind is one place, and then of course you have your next conscious levels and your different you have your astral, you have different ones. And so whatever one I went to was pretty expansive and just in this beautiful white light of love. So I don't know what conscious level that was, but it was wonderful. But you realize you have different conscious levels, and each of them serves their own purpose in their sense, and each of them has their own beauty.
You've also mentioned to me before, I don't know if you feel like going into it at all, that you sort of still feel like you have a foot on the other side there, and that you have been given messages or feelings of certain things to come in the future. Would you care to share any of those with us?
Well, yes, actually. One thing that happened from this is I've never worked on it or tried to develop it, but I've had spiritual experiences in the sense of spirits or guides or what, show up in my life, and they will tell you something. It's like sometimes it's like a voice, just like I'm talking to you, in your ear, usually my left ear. But they'll say, "Hey, you better not do that," or like go on a certain road or something. And it seems to, if I don't listen to them, something not so good happens. Also, they tell me lighthearted stuff. such as one time we were at the beach, and they have these Asian floats that they use for fishing nets, and they're quite prized if you find one on the beach that washes up. And so they told me, stop! There's a float to your left around this beach grass. And just like that, just like we're talking to each other. And so I wanted my wife to find this float, because I'd already found one a couple years earlier. So I said, hey, honey, you go look over there, and I'll go look over here. And then, of course, I heard this screech and this delight, and she comes up with this beautiful glass float. So they also do things like that, because in a way they're very human, at least that they communicate on that level. So they're not like can't communicate you on a very human level. And but I do hear spirits. Sometimes it goes in flurries. So I won't hear anything for a few months, and then they'll tell me a 2 or 3 or 4 things, or give me some insight into something that I've been dwelling on, and then I'll just get this insight. I'll say, hey, I'd really like to understand X or Y, and nothing will happen for a while, and then all of a sudden I'll be working on the ocean, or I'll be here at the house cleaning or doing something in the garage, and all of a sudden, wham! And then I gotta quickly grab a piece of paper and a pen, because it's only there for a very short period of time, and there's nothing more frustrating than being able to have the words just right, and then it's gone. And so I try to grab something and start writing, and I often can't get it all down, and then I have high hopes that they will help me fill it in later. So, I've done a lot of writings that way, that I just feel inspired to write, but they're just kind of given to me. And I believe, we have our guides, and we have our angels, and we have, our spirit and spirits, and, they want us to know certain things, and if we're curious they're always there. They're not separate. For years I used to think, I would talk to them like they're separate. But they're here right now. They're here right now with me, because this is a journey that they're a part of, and they want us to succeed in what our soul has planned out for this lifetime, to get to a certain place it wants to and / needs to go to, for example, perhaps, to alter its potential and its future lives, its vibratory pattern, what it's going to harmonize with, if it has to become over certain obstacles to reach a certain place of harmony that it's desiring to be. I hate the word higher, but higher, in a higher vibration or something like that. So, yeah, sometimes I just kind of see people once in a while. You see spirits once in a while. They kind of hit your peripheral vision, and you can feel them. I don't know who or they are, so to speak, but anyway, it's nice. I enjoy it. I've never had any bad encounters with spirit, except one, but that's another story. So that's opened that up. I have more experiences that way.
I remember one last thing you had mentioned to me about 2024. If I don't know if that's something you want to share or not.
2024.
Or how you feel about
sure.
that.
I'm
Okay.
pretty much an open book.
Sort of a premonition.
We're all in the same boat, and I'm pretty much an open book, even about a lot of my personal life, because we all share a lot of the same stuff. And I'll share that. I love the person, not based on money, of course, or anything, but based on the person, who you feel all these different people, they could be doing some menial job. It makes no difference. It's the person. And you realize that from the NDE. It has nothing to do with status or anything like that. It's just what kind of a person you are. If you're kind and nice, generous, things like that, that's what counts. Now, as far as 2024, funny Jenny should mention that. A few years ago, they hit me with this in my gut. and they said, watch out for 2024. And of course, you know, I've got money in 401ks and investments and stuff, and it's still sitting there. But one of the things, I was dwelling on that at the time, and so one of the things I need to decide to do before 2024, and I'm going to, is to change some of my investment strategy. You know, I mean, money is just a tool. It's not who we are, but we need it to live life a lot. So anyway, I don't know what else is going to happen in 2024, but all they mentioned was watch out for 2024, and I had this really bad feeling about 2024. Like, a lot of things are going to collapse financially in the markets. A lot of things are going to collapse in the world. There's going to be a lot of great tension, and it was just a very bad feeling. And I still think about 2024 at times, and I still get that feeling of I better get busy on a couple of things before 2024, because a lot of stuff's going to happen we're not going to think is good. But but they just kind of punched me in the gut on that one. It was literally like somebody punched in the gut and said, hey, watch out. So,
well, you'll keep us posted on that.
Well, you know, I haven't got anything more on it yet, but if I do, I'll let you know.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Richard, for sharing your story. Is there anything else you want to say before we go?
Oh gosh, not particularly. You
Okay.
know, there's so much to talk about, but the basic NDE was as I described it, and it was wonderful.
That sounds amazing. Well, thank you so much. And
You're welcome. Thank you.
Sure.